And we're live. Good morning.
Good
It
morning.
is December 2nd. And actually, this today is my birthday. So happy birthday to me on this beautiful, beautiful,
Oh,
right?
well,
It's
happy
my
birthday.
birthday, solar return day. Fuck, I don't know what they call it day, birthday.
This is the most on time I've ever been at telling somebody happy birthday.
Right. This is my reincarnation day.
Mm-hmm.
So, good morning, you guys. This is the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show, and I am your host, Divine Moon Goddess, with my co-host here, Oracle Empress in the building.
Hello.
So, this morning show is brought to you by Divine Moon Goddess Healers and Readings.com, where your
Welcome.
questions get answered. Boom, where you can definitely find both of us on that site. Anything from tarot, mediumship, birth charts, guided meditation, classes, rituals, you name it. We have it. So definitely go and check us out on the website for, in the description box or wherever you see this live. There will be more information, a little bit more information on what we offer, what we have going on, as well as if you would like to sponsor this channel or donate to this morning show. Information is in the description box on where to send those donations, you guys. So we do appreciate all the gratitude, the love, the shares, the views, as we're doing really well with this morning show. And I'm just loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving the topics that we're bringing. I'm excited for next week because we will have start to have some phenomenal guests. And
Mm-hmm.
these guests are what most people would just say everyday people, but I think they're doing awesome in their lives.
Oh
And
yeah.
women empowerment for December is kind of my push on energy. It's just really bringing that woman power, like standing in every one of them have their like their journeys that they've been
Mm-hmm.
on, phenomenal journey that's brought them to where they are, and they're kicking ass. And so I think that's going to be awesome just to see the different personalities, the backgrounds, that what they're doing, and just have these kind of conversations. So very excited for this month. Plus it's Saggy season. I mean, what else? I'm a little biased. I'm a little biased. It's Saggy season.
Just a little bit, whatever. Whatever floats her boat.
So topic this morning is generational curse versus generational trauma. What's the difference? Is there a difference? And what do we feel about it? Because you guys know we have a fucking opinion, right?
Right. Just a little bit. What do you
It's crazy, right?
when you think about generational curses, it sounds like one of those like creepy movies, where like some random witch was like, "I curse you," and and you're 7 generations after you, and you're like, "Fuck,
All
why
of them
did
after you.
you're like, fuck, why did I come to this
Dun,
place?"
dun. You're like, damn, damn.
But I think generational curses are more learned behaviors, more environmental behaviors that have or circumstances that have affected the generations before us that have kind of just continued to trickle down
Right.
versus where I feel like some traumas are I feel like some traumas, number one, can be scientifically proven.
Mhm.
PTSD, anxiety, depression, things like that, that can be proven that jump down from DNA, as well um, as well, I don't know. I guess that kind of maybe that would go back with generational curses. So maybe I should leave it at that. Because I was going to say things like, like abuse or molestation or things like that. But again, that would be possibly be a behavior that had been happened to that person or that person's father or that,
Right.
and then,
Like, so we know that, okay, now within the last whatever umpteen years of science, it's really been
Mhm.
like kicking ass and showing, connecting the dots between spirit and physical world, the phenomenon between them, which is profound. But the term like generational curse came back from when what? People didn't have all the science. They didn't have all the science. So these things that we can tie to in that way of a trauma, right? Like we know that womb trauma is a thing, right? We
Mhm.
know that that's a thing that gets passed down in the womb from generation to generation, regardless to if you're female or not. But if you are the female, you then carry it in your womb, then you pass it to the next, in the next, and the next, right? So I feel like the generational curses sometimes come from that not having the knowledge behind it, right? And so it's like if you look like in my line, we used to think we were cursed. Like I used to think we were cursed. I'm like, man, we are fucking cursed. Because if you look at the last, like real shit, if you look at the last like
Mhm.
5 generations, no, probably 6 or 7 generations of women, they all ended up alone, didn't remarry. Their first kind of relationship was some crazy karmic fucking craziness,
Right.
and they just like did not remarry. And so you just look at the lines, and I just would look like, damn, I don't want this to repeat again. Because when I looked at my mom, my mom had my dad's relationship, and they fucking toxic as hell, right? On so
Mhm.
many levels. And then she has never remarried, not really dated anybody of any kind of worthiness, or to that level of like something solid. Her mom, single for years. I mean, she dated, but nobody serious, to where she remarried after my grandfather, which her and my grandfather, he was a boxer. He used to beat the shit out of her, but she would fight back. So when she left him, never got with anyone else. If you look at her mother, same thing. I don't know what happened with the man. Didn't hear no stories about him, other than he was a fucking player. And she was very young when she got with him. I think she was like 7. I think she was like 13. I think she was 13. My great grandmother was 13, and he was like 30 something. He was like from Spain or somewhere. And she was like this little girl basically who was given to this man. But then when she got old enough, he was cheating on her, and with this 19-year-old that was like my grandmother's age at the time, or some shit, like some crazy shit. So after him, she never remarried. And if you look at her mother, the story is pretty much kind of the same. After the first man or whatever, there's no other men after that. So we would be like, I'm like, damn, what the fuck is going, like, what the fuck? And if you look at my own story with my daughter's father, I was going down the same path of never getting back with anyone, never having that solid relationship. And then finally in 2018, I was just like, yeah, no, something has to change. I can't end up like them, because they're so miserable, so fucking miserable and so alone. And it's like, so where does that come from? Is that the curse of the family, or is that the generational trauma from the family?
I was going to say, do you think that could possibly be kind of a learned behavior because that's what you've seen? Like, so you've seen, the relationship come in, and then you've seen women who kind of survive without needing a man or bringing another man in, or, reliving that. So I know you have talked about not bringing men around, Breesy and things like that when she was younger, right? But then you've
Right.
also talked about how, in that way, she hasn't learned to have a healthy relationship with a man.
Right.
So do you
Right.
think it could have something to do with all these women who have never been able to see a healthy relationship within themselves, their mothers, their grandmothers?
Right. Oh yeah. I think it's the trauma. I don't think it's a generational curse. We used to think that because of all the witchy hoo-ha, right? But as I've gone through a lot of healing and stuff like that, I understand that no, it's the trauma of these women who went through these very traumatic experiences, right? And they just were not able to sustain another relationship, or they weren't able to because they weren't shown it. So same thing like, with my mom, and just looking at my mom's situation of, even though she had her mom and dad up until she was about 5, even though it was crazy as fuck, her rationale with my father was to have the family she never had, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
after, it just never, she could never get that. She could never get that because she never found her self-worth after my dad. She never found her self-worth to heal and all of this stuff, right? So with me, I was the opposite. Like, no, fuck that. I'm not dealing with the shit, my mom. I'm not doing 20 years
Mm-hmm.
with someone. But because I had this fear of what somebody would do to my daughter, that was a huge issue with me allowing somebody in my life on a serious level. I
Mm-hmm.
had a huge fear of, what if this person, and would I be able to live with myself if I got with a man and he did some shit to her? And then it probably wasn't even bigger of someone doing something. It was more of, her dad had disappeared in her life. And I was like, I didn't want another man to come into her life and then disappear also. And then her. And so I thought I was saving her from this next hurt, right? But I learned, even with my oldest, my goddaughter, she's like, that's one thing we had talked about when she was having relationship problems a couple years ago. And she was just like, she was never shown that. She was never shown a healthy relationship. And I was like, you know what? I can't fight you on that because I never showed you that.
Mm-hmm.
I showed you, yeah, how to be a strong woman and how to survive and all this shit, right?
Right.
Didn't show you what a healthy relationship looked like. No one showed me. So I do feel like it's more of generational trauma versus curse. Like, oh, we're just cursed for the rest of our lives to be this, that, and the third. But I
Mm-hmm.
think with proper healing and therapy and looking at some things, I think it can be reversed. I think it can be changed. I think it can be healed. I think we can get there, but I don't believe in the generational curses. I just don't anymore. I think it goes deeper than that. And I do feel like we do carry a lot in our DNA. I've seen trauma. I've seen womb trauma in a meditative state. I've seen my own womb, trauma. And, I've done certain ones where I've done ones with clients where they have gotten to the meditative state and they were surprised. There's this one particular one, Sandra Rollis. I love all her meditations, and she has one that takes you back to baby, takes you back to the womb. And that was the first one that I actually did that took me back to the womb. Now I knew, I've known my mom and my dad had a lot of issues, but I didn't know how bad some of the issues were. And I got taken back to that place of being this fetus and all the shit going on outside of the womb.
Yeah.
That was crazy as hell to just witness and feel and just be like, damn, on a whole other level. And then it made me realize, when I was pregnant with my daughter, how much crying and arguing and fighting happened between me and her dad. And just what was she soaking up in the womb when I was
Mm-hmm.
pregnant with her? And it
Yeah.
made me sad. And I think that's the trauma. It's not a curse. Not to say that someone didn't curse one of my family, like, fuck you, bitch. Fuck you and all
Right.
your line.
Like your great 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 grandmother stole somebody's man, and that lady was like, "No, you're gonna live with the generation of none."
All women are gonna fucking be horrible. No, I think
Uh,
it's all the generations, unfortunately, with ever shit with the man played out very horribly. And they decided to, what they thought was being, I think what they thought being a strong woman was,
mhm.
they didn't realize that that kind of hindered. the lines
the line of
at the
things.
same
Right.
time. Hmm.
So I think,
Yeah.
that it's kind of like, I think when people describe generational curses, it's more or less uh, poorly treated. Um, I don't want to say mental illnesses because that's not the word I'm looking for. Um, poorly treated, poorly treated um, mental connections, I guess I should say in a way.
Mm.
When nobody, um, like you said, science has come a long way in general, even with spirituality or whatnot. But it's poorly treated connections because nobody has the understanding of how to resolve that or how to change that. So it becomes a learned belief that this is just the way things are. This is the way my family is. This is
Right.
this is just how things are going to be or how things go with my family because um, we don't learn to solve those in healthy ways, or we don't have the access to doctors, mental health, spiritual people practices, healers, um, therapy.
Right.
And so we just live with these and figure this is just the way life is, or the way life has to be.
Right. Right. And then like you're like searching for this curse to break this
Hmm.
fucking curse. There was a time when I was younger, because my mom and them, I'm telling you, they used to be doing some crazy shit. They used to be doing seances in the fucking house and shit, just all kind of weird shit. Like I used to see some crazy shit. And I remember, for a long time wondering if my first daughter was like the first grandchild to be taken because of my
Hmm.
mom doing some crazy shit. And that passing through my mind of like, because there was a lot of negative stuff in that home, a lot of I honestly, me and my brother and probably my dad were never fucked with in this home, but everybody else used to be there, including my daughter's father would have either sleep paralysis kind of shit happening to them, or even my aunt got her hair pulled. She got like pulled off the bed and shit from whatever the fuck was in the house. Even to animals seeing stuff around the house and
Hmm.
barking. And I talked about like the night when my daughter died, how my dogs were going crazy by my window. They were going fucking bananas. Like they knew something was going on. So I do have my thoughts on the death, even though she passed away from sudden infant death. And science in life, people will just say, well, that's what it is. But I know to my heart that that's not all that it was. There's more to it on a
Hmm.
spiritual level, which even my higher self kind of confirmed in my past life regression and told me I wasn't ready to know the truth yet. And so that was my confirmation that there's more to it than what I'm ready to deal with. Well, that was last year. So I haven't done
Hmm.
another one to kind of go back in, but I just kind of took it as confirmation of what I had been feeling, that there was more to it than just that, kind of diagnosis and saying this is what it is in the events. Cause even like I think I told you how like when I brought her home, my dog was just staring into the house and
Hmm.
it scared the fuck out of me. Like scared the shit out of me. And this dog, I gotta tell you guys a story real quick because this dog, I was pregnant, but I really didn't know I was pregnant yet when the dog came. It was one because I was hiding my pregnancy, right? I was a little
Yeah,
14-year-old
yeah.
hiding my pregnancy. And so my aunt said somebody brought her this dog. He was like a Rottweiler and Chow mix, right? And she couldn't keep him. And she said she immediately thought of me and brought the dog to my house. Now, my mom always had a problem with animals. Always had a problem with fucking animals. This is why I thought my mom was evil. because she always had a problem with every fucking animal. Now, my dad was an animal lover. Oh, he always brought dogs home or cats or some shit. Like my dad always had some fucking animals. And I will tell you that every animal we had would get sick or disappear. And it was like, and it was always, oh, they got out the gate. And it'd be like, Mom, are you fucking killing these
Mhm.
animals? Are you doing some crazy shit, lady? Like even her own birds would die. Like no animal would stay alive, no matter where. And I mean, we moved from place to place. We did not live in the same home. So for every place that we go, you mean to tell me everywhere that we live, the ground is somehow messed up to where these dogs are fucking sick or ill, and the ones that don't die disappear and just run away? I used to be like, So anywho, so this dog comes, my aunt comes with this dog, and I happen to be, outside in the back hanging up my clothes on this phone. Because not on a phone line, but the cords. So you
The
used to hang your
clothesline.
clothes on, yeah. So I was hanging my clothes out there and I was babysitting my aunt's dog. And this dog came and those dogs were fine. And I was like, okay, cute. And my mom is already bitching. I could hear her bitching. And I'm like, I'll take care of the dog. And she's like bitching about it or whatever. And I'm like, me and my dad are like, we got the dog. Like, shut up. We got the dog. And
Mhm.
I just remember I go back to folding my clothes up, and the other dog came near my basket. And that dog just jumped on my aunt's dog and like started fighting with him, like, get away from her basket. And I was like, I had to get the water hose to fucking break them up, right? So then this dog just really, as I, was pregnant and months kind of went by, I dropped out of school. I just couldn't go. My belly was big, trying to fit in the fucking seats. I just dropped out, right? Dropped out and stayed home. I would be in the because I used to love going outside. I would be outside sitting in a chair, and the dog liked to play in water. So I'd be playing with the water hose. And every time my daughter's father, because he sold drugs, it's not a mystery that he sold drugs then. So he would be in and out of the house, in and out of the house. And every time he would come up to me, like when he'd be coming in the gate, that dog, no matter where he was, and I called this dog Cujo. I named this dog Cujo of all fucking names, right? No matter where he was in the yard, he would rush to me and jump on my belly and like protect my belly. And I would just be like tripping out, but I was a kid, right? And so I would just be tripping out, like, why is he always jumping on me? And my daughter's father would laugh and be like, oh, he's jealous and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the fucking dog, really? The dog's jealous of me? But he would literally jump on me and cover my belly like he was trying to protect, my stomach. And so there's all these little things that kind of led up to, you know what I mean, the night of her passing. And it's no coincidence, all the shit that happened in that house, all the seances and all of the craziness, that I know there's way more on a spiritual level to it. But that shit was crazy, like this dog. And then, my mom kept letting him out of the gate and he would come back. And then until finally he was gone, and we couldn't find him, and it was kind of sad. It was very sad. But that dog was like a protector. That dog used to be by my window. And I remember the night she passed, he was going crazy by my window. And that was hours before she passed. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and she passed, in the middle of the night, somewhere in the morning. But
Mm.
I remember going crazy by the window. It was crazy as hell. Craziest shit ever. So I don't know if I still believe in generational curses, but I do believe you can touch some shit. And we just had an episode all about witchcraft and shit. I
Mhm.
do believe you can open up some doors and fuck with some shit that you're not supposed to. And
Yeah.
when these energies come back to get whatever you promised them, I do think people have to pay those prices, unfortunately. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I do believe there's